At Ritual, we know what goes into a magical holiday season: the potluck planning, the gift giving, the spreadsheets. This new year, take a moment for yourself with simple daily rituals that help you put your foundational health at the top of your to do list. Rituals Essential for Women 18 Plus Multivitamin is a clinically backed multivitamin featuring 9 high quality key essential ingredients to help you fill key nutrient gaps in your diet. Or maybe you're stressing your daily protein intake, or you want to double down on support for your gut microbiome. From plant-based essential protein to 3-in-1 pre, pro, and postbiotic strains with Symbiotic Plus, Ritual helps you focus on supporting your body after a long season of juggling everybody else. And for a limited time, do it with 30% off a 3-month supply at ritual.com/podcast. These statements have not been evaluated by the Food and Drug Administration. This product is not intended to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease.
If you're a facilities manager at a university, you know students rely on the cafeteria for breakfast, lunch, dinner, and the occasional late-night snack. So when a dishwasher breaks down and dirty plates pile up, the mess hall can turn messy in the blink of an eye. Enter Grainger. With over 1 million industrial-grade products and fast delivery, the product you need now is never far away. So you can turn that dishwasher back into a lean, clean washing machine. Call, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Hi, friends, and welcome to another episode of your Bish Therapist podcast. Today, I am going to cover Karen Huger, specifically because for those of you who don't know, there was just an article dropped that was very, very damning and gave a lot of tea about what Karen is up to. And so I'm going to talk about that because, quite frankly, it makes me angry. So I'm going to talk about Karen. I'm going to talk about Real Housewives of Potomac, part 2 of the reunion. And then I'm also going to talk about Southern Charm. I decided this week I will do a bite-sized bish about one of the housewives, whatever stands out to me, whether it's Real Housewives of Beverly Hills or I'm not sure, but I feel like today there is a lot to discuss between these two topics. And I think that's a realistic goal for us. So that's what I'm going to do today. Before I get started with that, I do want to take a minute to thank those of you who listened to my bite-sized bish about, my state of affairs and my health stuff, because I understand that the episode wasn't for everybody, but for the people who listened to it, thank you. It was very vulnerable. It was very uncomfortable. It was my heart on a plate. So while I know it wasn't for everybody, for those who did listen to it, thank you for holding space for me in a way. Just know that that means a lot to me. And if I could thank every single one of you who listened, I would. So hopefully that's what I'm doing now. But please feel free to reach out to me, to DM with me directly or contact me directly, because I would like to thank you for that. It's always hard when, believe it or not, when I put stuff out there related to my health, I actually lose followers, Patreon included, and it's wild to me. But you know what? That's just how things are. So again, thank you for those that held space. You are my people. That means the world to me. The other thing I wanted to share is for people who love my podcast and would like it ad-free and early drops, please join my Patreon. So for subscribers of Patreon, I am doing ad-free episodes and when I can, early drops. So basically, I don't record my episodes too early. And honestly, thank goodness I don't, because I almost did record. So I'm recording today, which is Monday, and you're hearing this episode tomorrow on Tuesday. But I almost tried to pre-record on Sunday, and thank goodness I didn't, because all of this Karen Huger news came out on Sunday. So I was like, I'm glad that I waited. So if I do get to things early, I drop them early. And if I don't, I don't. But people who really hate ads, hop on over to Patreon, or if you don't like Patreon, Spreaker Supporters Club, because Spreaker's less interactive if you just really want access to ad free. Also, by the way, now that I'm talking about this, for those who are Spreaker supporters, when I post those episodes, I get statistics about, how many people listen, and not a lot of people listen to the Spreaker supporter ones, but they're supporters. So if there's something else I can do for you all, please let me know. But if you want ad free, there's those two beautiful ways to do that. And if not, the other thing I will say is that for those of you who enjoy me but don't follow me on Instagram, please do so. I recently saw that I had 745,000 views to my page this month, which is pretty common to have. It was around 600,000 views that I would get, but I mean, it's really grown so much, which is beautiful. But imagine if even like 1/10 of those people followed me. My little spiel here is just to say that please support me in any way that you can. And that doesn't always mean subscribing. I understand subscriptions sometimes are just not in the cards for a bazillion reasons. But a follow is free, doesn't cost anything, And so I think we're just living in times where social media for sure loves to take advantage of content creators' free stuff, and which I want everyone to enjoy it. All I ask is just for some support, because it does really make a difference. And the fact is that Instagram has become really hard for people like me who are advocates with loud voices. I get shadow banned all the time, and I don't know how much longer I'm going to really be doing a lot on there. I'm not going to ever delete my page, but you're not going to get like real bish on Instagram anymore, because I just get in trouble for it. So you know where you will get real bish? My Patreon. Unfiltered, unhinged, real bish. For those of you who are part of it, thank you so much. Adore you all. And we really do have a kiki, and I love it. So, end of spiel. Now, the tea that I'm going to give you is per Reality Blurb, posted an article on February 23rd, 2025. And the headline is Prosecutor Confirms Karen Huger has had 4 DUI offenses as Real Housewives of Potomac star faces sentencing in a few days. See how much time they want her to serve, plus live viewing thread. Okay, so I'm going to read you a little bit of this article and point out some really, really concerning pieces of this. Last month, Real Housewives of Potomac alum Robin Dixon went on her Reasonably Shady podcast, and Robin has really been going after Karen on this podcast. And it's like, so where was this Robin on Real Housewives of Potomac? Like, we would have loved you there. It's just, I don't know. It's just like Robin wasn't doing a lot when she was there, and now that she's not there, she's doing a lot, which whatever, fine. So she was the boots on the ground who told the world that Karen Huger, her most recent DUI, was actually her 4th, not her 3rd. So Karen is a big liar pants. Lie, 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 lie is all that comes out of her mouth. And a prosecutor now confirms that Robin was correct. Ahead of Karen's sentencing on Wednesday, February 26th, the prosecutor in her case filed a court document telling the judge that Karen should actually do some jail time because this happens to be her 4th alcohol-related traffic offense. On February 22nd, the Washington Post shared an update on Karen's criminal case, citing the recent filing by prosecutor Jordan Kramer. In the court filing, she accused Karen of having 3 previous alcohol-related cases from years 2006 to 2011, which resulted in a guilty verdict for driving while impaired and another driving under the influence. But despite the guilty findings, Karen served 0 jail time for all her previous offenses. And there's a quote in here that says, the fact that Miss Huger has repeatedly been given the benefit of another chance on 3 separate occasions demonstrates that she has not learned anything from her prior arrests. In fact, it appears as if she has been emboldened. Yes, ma'am. So this quote is from prosecutor Jordan Kramer. While Karen is facing up to 2 years in prison, the prosecutor is requesting that she be handed a 6-month jail sentence by the judge based on the sentencing guidelines in the state of Maryland. Karen's defense team, however, would prefer she serve 0 jail time. Sure, Jan. I mean, at this point, can I be real? Fuck off, please, please, please. 1 DUI is a mistake. 2 is a pattern, and 3 is a problem. Okay. I know that I have to be mindful of the things that I say. We're not idiots. Okay. It doesn't take a genius or a clinician to understand that this is a pervasive pattern of lying, denying, acting out, and not getting consequences. And the fact that she hasn't truly hurt somebody else is an absolute miracle. When I worked in inpatient rehabilitation programs, I can tell you that different states have different thresholds for what happens after a certain number of DUIs. If I'm being honest, many states, Pennsylvania being one of them, there would be people coming in with 10 DUIs that they virtually had no consequences whatsoever. And, this is one thing that I would love to actually, maybe I should reach out to them. I would love to collaborate with the Bravo docket because it is so different in the state of Maryland versus, in the state of Pennsylvania versus in other states. But from what I understand, I didn't grow up on the East Coast. I grew up in Chicago, Illinois, and I'm Midwest for life. And sometimes the East Coast, it really does, it blows me away in terms of the things here that people are just able to get away with. And I'm like, that is wild. So going back to the article, of course, Karen's defense team would love for her to not have a single consequence, which, if I'm being honest, that's dangerous. It's Karen's level of delusion, denial, and minimization is actually dangerous, and it's going to hurt her or somebody else. And so, in my professional opinion, when somebody proves themselves unable to make the best decisions, somebody needs to make a decision for them that allows them to do some hard thinking about what it is that they're doing. So back to what Karen's defense team wants. Karen's defense team cites the fact that Karen spent, oh my God, this is the stuff that is gonna make me rage, and I'm gonna try to keep my cool. They cite the fact that Karen spent 28 days at a rehab facility in Florida to address 3 problems, including alcohol abuse, dependency on antidepressants, which doesn't fucking exist. I'm going to address that in a minute, and past trauma. And now here's the thing. Even though I have zero respect for Karen, I just have respect for humanity. And in the article, you can go to it. It says specifically what the trauma was. I'm not going to repeat it here because I just don't think that's appropriate. And also, I don't want to conflate being mad at Karen and dismissing a very real experience that she had. So they're claiming that the 3 things, so alcohol abuse, which, by the way, that's the only thing that causes drunk driving. I just want to make sure everyone listening to this knows that drunk driving is the only thing that causes drunk driving. So taking your antidepressant and driving isn't drunk driving. When I take my Lexapro every day and get in the car, I'm not drunk driving. Okay. But if I take a substance, if I take alcohol, if I take opiates, if I take anything else and drive, then I am driving under the influence. And by the way, as I mentioned before, I have very serious health issues, and I take I take a muscle relaxer and things like that. I won't take that and drive. If I'm having a bad day and I need to take that earlier in the day, then I don't drive. And listen, that's probably a privilege, if I'm being honest. For sure, that part of it. But my point is that don't you dare weaponize mental health and try some fakakta bullshit that an antidepressant is the cause of your problems, because I will not stand for it. It is absolute bullshit, and it is an excuse, and I won't stand for it. Karen's attorney claims that since her rehab stint, she has been participating in meetings every morning with an Alcoholics Anonymous coffee group. Okay, another thing here. An AA group is not a coffee group. So this camp is either full of shit or they have no idea what they're talking about, or both. AA meetings can happen over coffee. often at AA meetings, there is coffee, mostly shitty coffee, which, some desserts, some snacks, some coffee. Usually, by the way, that sort of thing is a commitment. A commitment meaning a member of the group. Part of being an AA is being of service. Being sober doesn't mean just putting the substance down. It's how can I be of service? How can I make amends? How can I participate with my community? How can I participate with this group? And so, in fact, people who are doing service will bring coffee, will bring desserts. This is, that's not like there's funding for this stuff. In fact, now there's funding for nothing, which don't get me started on that. But my point is that their wording around this just lets me know that they're just completely full of it. So similar to, this is what it says in the article, similar to Karen's Real Housewives of Potomac co-stars, the prosecutor also questioned the timing of Karen's rehab stint, which came after her guilty verdict and not before. Additionally, Kramer wrote, this is the part that I die. The state is concerned that the program that Miss Huger did choose to enroll in equates itself to a luxury resort experience, adding that it offered spa services and meals made by a chef. The place that I worked at, they did have services where we had acupuncturists come in, and there's points in the ears that can really help people in recovery, calm their nervous systems, lessen anxiety, help with not only withdrawal but post-acute withdrawal syndrome, which is called PAWS. And so, when you're detoxing from substances, you have a withdrawal which needs to be medically attended to. And then you have the post-acute withdrawal, which is where certainly in addition to modern medicine and Western medicine, there are other modalities that can be used, right? Meditation, breath work, acupuncture, things like that. But this is not a spa day for these folks. This is in between classes and lectures and group therapy and individual therapy and doing the 12 steps and all of these other things. So Karen, make no mistake, she is in denial. She is not ready to do anything different. And in my opinion, Karen needs jail time. She needs jail time to the fullest extent of the law to be without her wigs and without her privilege and without her, everyone catering to her. She needs to be humbled. And I hope that the state of Maryland does decide to humble Karen. And you know what? Here's the thing. When I was working in inpatient rehab, wishing someone to go to rehab and get consequences is actually a loving thing, because I'm telling you, Karen is in trouble and she's going to hurt herself or somebody else if this is not checked. And the fact that it's been unchecked, by the way, is the reason that we're here, because Karen has privilege of some sort in Potomac, which is wild to me. That also, I will say this, women in situations like this, it's very easy to emotionally manipulate. And if I'm being honest, the structure of society says that, well, women are, they're the gentler sex and they could never manipulate us. And oh, look at how sad she is about this. And that's how women get away with stuff. Ironically, the misogyny of society is how manipulative women like Karen, get away with stuff. And all it takes is one judge to see through the bullshit, hopefully maybe listen to this podcast. I don't know. Anything is possible. And just to hold this woman accountable to keep Potomac safe and to keep Karen safe and to keep everyone safe from Karen, because it sounds dramatic, but it is life or death when it comes to getting behind the wheel intoxicated, which not only has she done 4 times and gotten caught for it, she's also admitted on camera that there have been many times that she hasn't gotten caught for it. So you can all go to realityblurb.com to read the rest of the article, which there's not much left. Wait, hold on. There is one thing that I did want to say. The article said, and just last week, during part 1 of the Real Housewives of Potomac reunion, Karen, who skipped the reunion, filmed an emotional video where she denied being an alcoholic and stated that she went to rehab to address taking antidepressants and drinking. Yes, again, not a thing. Actually, antidepressants are supposed to help. I mean, there's medications that people can use to assist with not drinking. Older medications like antabuse, where if you take it and then you ingest alcohol, it makes you violently sick. There's naltrexone. There's all these other medications that people can use when physiologically they're having a hard time staying away from a substance. Again, this is part of what addiction is, and that deserves empathy, but someone needs to bust through Karen's bubble. So let me just leave it at that. Okay. So now I'm just going to talk about the rest of the Real Housewives of Potomac reunion, because to me it was like a little bit of a tease, because there was a lot of stuff that happened, but of course the end of the reunion is where we see the bomb drop that TJ dropped on Eddie. And so it starts out like at the end of the episode, we watch Eddie and Greg FaceTime TJ, who said, quote, "I ain't going to that fake ass show with those fake ass people." And so here's the thing. Many people theorized that the bomb was that Stacie hired TJ to be her boyfriend. In fact, by the way, soft plug. So today, the day that you're listening to this, there's two ways to listen to your bish today. I also went on Recap Rodeo with Lindsay Lime and her partner Brady, and talked a lot about a lot of different things. So in addition to, if you want to hear me read People for Filth today, we'll also go over to Recap Rodeo and listen to that, because Brady, Lindsay, and I, we had a kiki, and your bish definitely went wild. So check that out. And the other thing is, like, on Recap Rodeo, we talked about that this was the rumor, because this is what everybody said was the rumor. So Stacie directly addressed this at the reunion and denied it. And she was like, no. And then she went on to say, "We are not together. We are still best friends." So here's what's wild to me. It's like TJ is dropping this bomb and Stacie is on stage trying to claim that they're best friends. And Stacie admitted, one thing I appreciated was Stacie admitting that there were moments watching this show that were shocking. To see the way he spoke to me was tough. And I'm like, okay, well then can we stop claiming terrible people as our best friends? Like, I am so tired of hearing people be like, but they're my best friend. Okay. If someone isn't able to be a respectful partner, they are not able to be a respectful friend. Okay? Bloop. So let's stop claiming terrible people as best friends. Just a note there. So Stacie admits that although she and TJ refrained from intercourse, they had intimate moments. And again, it's just like, we're adults. Can we stop giving a shit over, like, sex positivity says, if you're doing things safely and you're not hurting yourself or anybody else, mazel, enjoy. It's like it's been such a part of humanity that is so judged and ridiculed and shame-based, and it leads to Jared and Jared Osmond and she wished her name was Brittany Osmond. Jeez, she would die of happiness. She'd abandon her kids and just happily be an Osmond. But Jared and Brittany, and then again situations like TJ and Stacie, and it's like, we're grown adults. Have sex. Life is short. Be safe. Take care of each other. Let's be sex positive. Anyway, so of course, intimacy, but again, it's like that parsing words, which is something like children do, of like, for example, in the Mormon community, there's this thing called soaking, where there's penetration but there's no movement, and if there's no movement, well then it's not a problem. And it's just like, the logic of that is so beyond inconceivable that it's, the fact of the matter is that when it comes to religion, shaming and telling people that a normal urge that they have is abnormal, well, then you come up with these things where people, use these loopholes to get around them, because humans have sexual desires. Like, that's just a normal, healthy part of human existence. And so, whatever, when we pathologize it, it turns people into, you know, doing all of this, where it's like, well, we didn't have sex, but, and it's like, ugh, give me a break. Aren't you guys middle-aged? Who cares? Anyway, so, but I died when a Bravo fan asked a shady question comparing Stacie and TJ to Kenya and Walter. Because I joked about that on the podcast with Recap Rodeo. I was like, Walter, Kenya, is this you? And if you don't remember that storyline, it was a big storyline where, this guy Walter was on Real Housewives of Atlanta with Kenya, and he just like couldn't seem any less interested. He was not a nice guy. He did not treat Kenya well. It was like such a red flag. And then it came out that he said she paid him, but of course she denied it. And then, I don't know where we landed on that, but it clearly wasn't a really authentic relationship. I just love shady viewers who like ask the questions that we all want to know. So, okay. So at the top of the episode, speaking of terrible men, Greg whined about having to wait 3 hours longer than expected in his very comfortable dressing room. Cut to Kay's package where she claims Greg has changed. And I'm like, sure, Jan. Okay. So you know how I roll and I don't get fooled by anything. And so, she's like on stage talking about how he's changed and he's in a dressing room, basically like surrounded by people, getting fed, in a nice area. And he's complaining about having to wait 3 hours for Kay. Okay. That's not changed behavior. That's in fact the same behavior. And so Kay said after the show wrapped, she and Greg separated, she moved out, and she purchased a condo on her own. But for some ungodly reason, they got back together, planned to move back in and get engaged. Kay shared they've been ring shopping, and I just was like, why, Kay? Why? Why, girl? Why? Oh my gosh. Past behavior is the best predictor of future behavior, and real change requires hard work and commitment long term. Kay, you are fabulous, and please get yourself somewhere that deserves you. Okay? Because Greg ain't it. And here, let me also be clear. I'm so tired of the excuses made for men on Bravo behaving like king babies just because they hate filming. Okay? There's a difference between being uncomfortable and like reading uncomfortable on camera and just behaving like an asshole. Okay. Behaving like an angsty teenager in response to doing something you don't want to do is immature nonsense, and it does say a lot about your character. I don't buy what Greg is selling, and I think Kay deserves better. Get this man off my screen. Sincerely, your bish therapist. Okay, moving on to Giselle. Giselle revealed that Jamal got married, and apparently he and his wife dressed as wicked characters like Elphaba. And I didn't dive into this because it was just like I had other things to focus on. But Giselle said inexplicably they both dressed as wicked characters despite not being a fan or knowing anything about Wicked. And you could tell Giselle was like, to Giselle's credit, Jamal is the father of her beautiful daughters. And to her credit, she really does try to champion him and not be shady. And well, listen, I mean, she did at first and he really deserved it. But now they've really grown into this mature relationship. She shaded it, but didn't focus on it too much. The one thing I did notice is that Giselle just gently, nicely said that the girls don't have a relationship with his new wife, which is a huge red flag. Because I'm telling you what, I don't care how old you are when you get remarried. If you have children and that person isn't good to your children and you don't care, that's pretty fucked. And I will be real, that definitely did happen to me. My dad got remarried and his wife used to call me fat and all these other things. And my God, I could talk about that for millenniums. And of course, my dad didn't care. So there is some personal stuff here that, to be honest, but also it's just like, that's just not cool. Like, it doesn't matter if your girls are over 18, if they're in college. Like, if you're going to have someone in your life, they better be good to your kids. I mean, that should be the basic rule. Let's see. I loved the part where they all roasted themselves for each other's terrible fashion choices between wigs and Wendy's Michelin Man sweater, and then finding out that Andy never texted a housewife about bad clothing until Wendy's blue Michelin Man sweater. I died. And the one reason why I love this group, Potomac, and when Andy's with them, he's also more fun, is because they all have a great sense of humor. You can tell there's other franchises, and I'm going to say women of color tend to have I feel better senses of humor about things. They can hold themselves to task. They can hear tough feedback. They can give tough feedback. And sometimes white women specifically, they get really offended and they have a hard time with that. And I do think that's just like a cultural difference that I notice. But I love when we can be honest and not like clutching our pearls, and like everyone can laugh about their bad wigs and their bad sweaters and their bad this and their bad that. Because here's the thing, these women are the most gorgeous women I really have ever seen. These Potomac women, they are so gorgeous. I can't even stand it. So Yeah, when you're securing your shit, you can be like, yeah, that was a bad sweater, man. So Jacqueline joined pregnant and she continued to be Mia's minion, dragging Gordon's mental health and his instability. And I'm just like, Mia and Jacqueline need to get off my screen and I never want to see these two again. So, but what came next truly brought me such joy, which was a discussion about Mia's messy storylines, leading the group to fiercely hold her accountable in ways that I just was clapping the entire time. And again, that's another thing with these women. They do hold each other fiercely accountable, and not in mean ways, in ways that Mia completely deserved. First came Andy joking that Mia's this is so funny, that Mia broke up with ink, but joked that her tagline was ink is permanent. I mean, it didn't take a genius to know that that wasn't going to land well. Then came Wendy, Giselle, the audience, and pretty much everyone on earth calling Mia out for a host of accusations. One being that she orchestrated the storyline with Ink and possibly Gordon for personal benefit, that she pretended to break up with Ink in order to save face with viewers who literally, like, viewers have been really angry with Mia. Like, you think I've been angry with her? You ain't seen nothing. Go to see some of what these women are saying about Mia. I'm always going to be respectful, but I'm going to call it what it is. And viewers aren't having her. And then the third one is Giselle accused her of living in Atlanta and flying to Potomac only to film, which I 1000% believe. A viewer then called Mia out for the scene where she told her children about the divorce, clearly for the first time on camera. That scene that we've talked about, Mia admitted that this was true. By the way, I don't know if people caught this. If you didn't catch it, go back and rewind. Mia admits that this was true and explained that she was supposed to tell the kids about the divorce and family therapy, but that never happened. So I guess the natural solution was to exploit them for a storyline. Girl, bye. Take that whack ass explanation and go on, because I can't. Another amazingly wild fact regarding the paternity debacle is that Mia got pregnant with her son via IVF. So let me be clear. The paternity storyline is now not only completely irresponsible, but disgusting, because it was never a feasible possibility that Gordon wasn't the father. So justice for Gordon and his two beautiful children all day long. And truly, if this is who Mia is, I'm glad that those kids have Gordon, who, even though everyone keeps weaponizing his shit, Gordon seems to be the only sane, consistent, appropriate parent. So Mia can put that in her pipe and smoke it. Let's see what else I have here. Okay, so to finish up, because I want to get to Southern Charm, because holy moly. So Giselle put the nail in the coffin, letting Mia know she's been a, quote, terrible mother, end quote. And Mia gets up and leaves. But you know what I loved? And here's the thing. I said this on Recap Rodeo, so I'd like to say that I'm an oracle. I'm just kidding. But what I said on Recap Rodeo is that when Mia gets up to leave, let her go, because she is doing it for attention. She's doing it for people to say, no, Mia, we're so sorry. Please come back. And I said, let her go. And that's exactly what this group did. These women let her go. Andy let her go. And they all said, truth hurts. And you know what? It does. The fact is, Mia needs to hear this feedback to understand that even if her intent wasn't to exploit her children, she did. Even if it wasn't her intent to be inauthentic and lie constantly, she did. This group served as advocates for her children, for Gordon, and for Gordon's mental health. And for that, claps. Claps. Potomac, I love you. Please never change, except for getting Mia and Jacqueline off my screen. Next. Okay, so now we're going to talk about Southern Charm. Southern Charm was one of the wildest episodes that we have seen in, I don't know, the history of Southern Charm. I mean, Southern Charm is wild. I mean, you know, let's not forget Thomas Ravenel and Catherine and all of that. That was serious drama when they were on. But this episode of Southern Charm was wild because we found out a couple of really important things. Number one, that Shep created a fantasy relationship with Sienna literally in his own mind. Two, he failed to effectively communicate his emotional experiences to Sienna. And three, he failed to notice that she is most definitely not on board. The reason why I think this is because Shep is inherently self-focused, which, you know, is a nice way to say narcissistic, and I should say narcissistic traits and tendencies. So when you're very self-focused on your, because here's the thing is that people who have narcissistic traits and tendencies, people think that they don't have emotion. They do have emotion. It's just usually about themselves and not so much other people. And so I think Shep is so self-focused on his stuff, his emotions, his all of this, that it makes reading each other's emotional cues impossible. And as a therapist, I will tell you, if you're not in touch with your stuff, it's going to be hard for you to be in touch with other people's stuff. I mean, that's just common sense. So Sienna claims that she did not know how Shep felt and revealed that they never defined the relationship. Shep has a history of struggling to connect with emotions, and frankly, we can't improve at something we do not practice. Avoiding painful emotions only serves to amplify and perpetuate pain, while facing them creates confidence and mastery. In other words, you can't be good at something you don't practice. You don't learn another language by just like ignoring it. And so, education to be educated. Shep is an educated guy. It takes work. Well, so does emotional health and personal growth. It takes practice, it takes education, and it takes just a consistent desire to do better. So Shep, oh my gosh, this episode, everyone died of cringe. Shep's first of many unrequited declarations of love came as he told Sienna, "You make me want to be a better man," which, first of all, woof, Shep. You've been watching too many romantic comedies, because here's the thing. Shep is saying that he wants to be a better man because of her, but he doesn't at all. It's not like he's doing anything to be a better person. It's not like he's volunteering in his community and going to soup shelters or soup kitchens and all these things. He's so stuck in a fantasy world of like a rom-com in his head. He also said, "I'm wildly attracted to you and I'm actually in love with you." And the look on Sienna's face said it all. But Shep is so blissfully unaware. And you ask yourself, how could Shep's awareness be so off? Well, I'm going to explain that. So Shep has an altered perspective, and we see it in real time as he recounts his reality to Austin. Okay. So when we have blinders on, all humans have blinders. It's just a part of human experience. And when you have blinders on, you can't see the forest for the trees. You can't see anything but your perspective. And so he's so self-focused on how he feels, he's missing all of these cues, which is that she clearly is not interested. But Shep claims, he tells the story to Austin, that on the walk over, he felt like good because Sienna said that she missed him. But production flashed back and provides proof that this is a literal fantasy. Shep says, and I wrote this down, like I rewound, I looked at the subtitles, I put it like I wrote it down because I was like, this is wild. Shep said, "I miss you. Do you miss me?" Sienna said, "I'll see," which, like, what a response. What a response to that. "I'll see." What does that even mean? And then Shep says, "Well, I miss you." And then Sienna laughs and she says, "I'm sure you do." And so it's like we see in real time how Shep's blind spots are making him see things that he wants to see and preventing him from seeing the truth, which is that she's just not that into him. And as evidenced by they go to dinner, Shep leaves to gossip with Austin, and Sienna said, "Finally, I'm at the fun part of the table." Woof. God, that's so rude. Madison is a true wingwoman, pumping Sienna for information by pretending to be interested in her, which I loved, by the way. It was emotional manipulation, but I loved it. And sometimes it can be used for good and not evil. And I think this was a good example of that. So Madison asked directly, "Are you together?" Sienna's literal response was, "Were we together? Maybe. I don't know." And then she says, "We were non-committal." So Shep is dreaming about having babies with her in the Bahamas, and she is literally like, Who? I don't know him. Oh my God. And as Shep talks, Austin finally catches on to the fact that he's not a reliable narrator, and then cut to Shep reading another wild text he sent aloud. First, he read it to Austin. And here's the thing, while I'm irritated with Austin because I did talk about that bullshit DM he sent me, which if you don't know what I'm talking about, listen to my last episode or join my Patreon. But because I posted it there. But I'm emotionally mature enough to to be like, well, Austin was rude to me, but like what he said was hilarious. Like, I don't have sour grapes. Austin's not the first man to be mean to me, and he's not going to be the last. So Shep's reading this text to Austin, and he's just dying. It was all of us. Shep's text read, and I did write it down. Here's what it said. Good morning, Sienna. Listen, I love seeing you and no one else. No one. But I'm not going to try to convince someone they love me for 3 days, especially when I know deep down they do. Okay, sidebar. At first you thought this was going to go in a good direction of like him realizing, I've been trying to convince you of this and you just don't seem that into it. So like, let's just call it. Oh no, that's not where he went. He said he doubled down and he basically was like, I know how you feel. And that's the wild thing here, is that Shep is his narcissistic traits and tendencies are so wild that he is ignoring how she feels and trying to tell her, no, this is how you feel. And at the end of the day, I mean, that is so wacky, immature, inappropriate. Like, who the fuck is Shep Rose to try to tell this person how she truly feels? Like, go on, please. That's crazy. Anyway, so he goes on to say, here's hoping you understand my feelings and exalt them. And here's the thing. Another sidebar. You all know I love a good word. I love words. I love language. I'm a word nerd. Sometimes I say big words and people are like, what on earth does that even mean? And I love the use of the word exalt in a modern text. I just feel like that is so Shep, so amazing. And I just, what can I say? I just loved every second of it. Okay, back to the text. I just don't feel this way ever, he says. I know that you agree and feel a lot of what I do because I've heard it from your perfect little freckled lips. And those around us can say and think what they will, but we will have the last laugh and we'll have love, laughter, and and everything that matters. Okay, my TED Talk is over. Austin's reaction that his soul died and evaporated into the Bahamian sky. Literally, I was just like, yes, that is funny. That's insane. And that's how I think everyone felt watching it. Because everyone on the planet, everyone in the cast and on planet Earth can see that Sienna does not care about Shep. And listen, to the credit of the cast, I did appreciate as we watch them try to gently pop Shep's love bubble, right? Craig takes the stance that being a good friend means being directly honest, while Austin feels like it's kicking Shep when he's down. And here's my position. It's a tough position to be in, but I believe that blind spots require giving hard feedback that doesn't always feel good to impart. In the field of mental health and drug and alcohol recovery, a solid support network is paramount in overcoming blind spots. And the reason is that we need people we love to shake us and say, hey, you are missing things. What you believe right now is not accurate. I love you, but it's not accurate. And you need to get to reality and look at this shit the way that it is. And I'm going to help you do that. And in recovery, the one thing about recovery that most people don't talk about a lot about, it's surrender to the belief that when our brains are hijacked, myself included, when our brains are hijacked, we're not reliable narrators for ourselves. So we rely on support system to say, hey, I see you're going through a tunnel. You're not being a reliable narrator. You're having some blind spots. We got to look at this. And that is the one thing about being sober, being in recovery from mental health, substances, whatever. It requires you to be open to feedback that sometimes feels really harsh. Sometimes my therapist has to say things to me and I'm like, God damn, you're right, man. I don't love hearing that, but you are right. And I have to suck it up and I have to take it and I have to do something with it, because otherwise I'm fooling myself and I'm not doing what I need to do. I'm not doing my job of healing and recovering. So I definitely think that, by the way, blind spots are part of the human experience and everything that I'm saying is part of the human experience. So I think that trying to pretend with a friend because we don't want to hurt their feelings, we end up enabling bad behavior and co-signing stuff that we don't want to co-sign. And so remember last year's reunion that ended with Shep conceding that he had an unhealthy relationship with alcohol, and literally basically people were trying to be like, you need rehab, go to rehab, get help. And then clearly nothing ever came of that. Shep just went along with his life. So I suspect that what's happening here is that Shep has been trying to refrain from alcohol, from overutilizing alcohol, but without doing the actual work. And so when people skip that crucial work healing part of the journey and take the bridge over to like, look at me, I'm doing better island, that's not accurate. There's usually some blind spots or something missing here. And so I believe that Shep redirected his focus from alcohol to love and relationships, because being in love and like that new love feeling provides a very familiar buzz that substances will also provide. And so people who get sober but don't really get sober, it usually ends out coming sideways. And so in a preview for this week, Shep admits he goes on a bender and wakes up in a beach chair, which is like, bro, you're 44. Get with it, okay? He went on this bender due to his inability to tolerate the emotional pain that this situationship created. So the fact is that putting down any substance without addressing the root cause that led to use will always result in shit coming out sideways. And here we are at Sideways Shep tweaking on love. It is very common for people to put down a substance and pick up a process addiction. You're not addicted to a substance, you're addicted to a process like sex, love. My mind is blanking. I'm feeling foggy today, but there's a lot of other shopping. Thank you. Shopping, gambling. There are a lot of other processes that we can develop a similar addiction to when we put a substance down. So, and this is not just with drug and alcohol, this is with healing. If you bridge over the most important parts to heal, you're going to end up being a toxic person who like preaches stuff that they just don't. They don't practice what they preach. So Craig said he didn't want to enable Shep, and to me, Craig is spot on here. I understand being concerned about Shep's feelings, but sometimes love means having tough conversations from a place of care and concern. And that's not what we say, but how we say it in these scenarios. I've had to say the craziest things to people, and I do it in a way that with care and concern that they can receive. And sometimes people didn't receive very well, but that's, this is a part of healing that I don't think people talk about enough. And I think you see a lot of therapists on TV don't hold people as accountable as they need to be, because I think being a therapist on TV is, that's a whole other thing. I could do a podcast about that myself. So the point is that as we age, emotions we are not willing to process ends up snowballing and controlling us. And that's what we're seeing. Shep controlled by unresolved emotions that he just wants to skip over. And that's not how life works. And the last thing I'll say as a side note, flamingo yoga. I need to do that immediately. And when that sweet little flamingo copied yoga poses, I swear to you, I could have died from cuteness overload. I was just like, oh my God, flamingo is so cute. I just want to squish it, but I know you can't squish a flamingo. See, for me, when I really love something like the kids, oh my gosh, I just squish. I just want to squish their sweet little faces, their little cheeks. I just want to hug them. And I know you can't do that with a flamingo, but I just wanted to pet that little flamingo. So that was by the way, that was a nice sorbet in the episode to see like people having fun with sweet little adorable flamingos. So that is going to be it for me today, my friends. As I mentioned, I will be talking more about housewives this week, and Karen's sentencing hearing is on Wednesday. And so depending on what happens with that, I may do a bite-sized bish just about that. So definitely stay tuned for another episode this week that will cover something, because listen, what I've learned is all I have is my voice, and I'm going to use her real loud. Do, 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 do. And I'm glad that you all can be here for the ride and enjoy it. I greatly appreciate all the support and love from all of you. Just a reminder to follow my podcast and to click automatic downloads because that really helps me with my numbers. To please follow me on Instagram, especially social media. Come over and check out my Patreon. You can join for free. There's some stuff that is for free members, and then there's some stuff behind a paywall, and you can make your best decisions there. But I definitely think that one thing I'm getting better at this year is advocating for myself. And so for me to continue to do this, especially with the state of affairs with my health, I just really need the support and all of that. And so can't do it without you. And I appreciate you all so much. So for today, sending love to you and yours, and ta-ta for now. Disclaimer. Posts are not intended to diagnose, treat, or provide medical advice. Your Bish therapist is for entertainment and informational purposes only. The podcast, my opinions, and posts are my own and not associated with past or present employers, any organizations, Bravo TV, Great Heart Productions, or any other television network. The information in YBT podcast and on its social media is provided for general informational purposes only and is not intended to diagnose or treat. Please do not act or refrain from acting based on anything you read, see, hear on YBT podcast or associated social media. Communicating with YBT via email and or social media does not form a therapeutic alliance. Melissa, operator of YBT, is unable to provide any therapeutic advice, treatment, or feedback.